You want to come up?
No.
No.
And we have the ballad of Jan and Alexa on the stairs ready for...
We didn't run it from there, was it?
That's nice. Oh, okay.
Yeah, please go back to the rest
No, that is the start. It's just the grass and somewhere in it.
Today I'm learning things.
What I think.
Cool.
So yeah, it's the start. Okay. So let's go.
Okay. So today our project is based on a true life patient's experience from an admission to hospital in the beginning of December to finally a discharge, not home but to a caring home in the middle of January.
Okay, so we looked at we tested our hypothesis, so we went through that patient journey, checked that it worked, modelled with Lego for our experience, to share our knowledge and experience, and I'm a mapper, so we mapped the process, and then we took the process pain points identified as red, which is the non-value work waste, and then you can just separate that out. All of that waste could have been helped by better communication. So we brought it down to a couple of strands, which is data and system, and a chunk that we could do. Sorry.
So out of the national data, there is quite a lot of quite good national data published about delayed transfer of discharge. If you find a genuinely Excel macro that's all things that's very good, so I'm trying to bring something that's a bit easy to use. I found quite a lot of regional variation, which was quite interesting. There's quite a lot of variation up down to trust as well. So I think it's quite useful if individual regions and trusts could look at their own individual data rather than just looking at the national picture. And I would like, the next steps would be to look more at the granular level to see whether those patterns are consistent or whether they're just random within a particular slice of time.
And it's all GitHub. Build on it.
So one of the problems that we found was communication, both within the entity and our families. So we wanted to look at asynchronous communication. So we developed this. It's actually shiny web form. You can do that. So entity members can put little things in to be shared either with the family or with the rest of the team that then populate this table. What happens then is that you can choose to ping the patient's next of kin or carer, and they can then log into a portal to see the information that the team wants to share. And then they can reply to it if they want to with a message back to the team. So here they're planning a discharge and the carer is saying, brilliant, I'll put an easy on. If you're wondering what TIP stands for, it's totally incomplete prototype. So really, what we wanted to show you is the concept of how things could be better and how you can get change through NHS.
A delay, reduce the delay from patient admission to discharge.
Yeah, we'll have a t-shirt.
Thank you.
That's how it's done. So we've definitely got time for some questions from our judges. We've got a question?
No.
Hello.
Hi.
Are you planning to link that in with existing data sources?
So, in an ideal world, this would link with the electronic health record. So the ODT updates could be like an optional, just a tick box. Would you like to push this to the family update portal? In Wales, we do paper. So in Wales, it would have to be a standalone process. But if you've got something that works, I would rather extend it than build something new into the system. I think the asynchronous communication was the big idea that came out. There's someone on my ward, I'm a geriatrician, I'm not a developer. There's someone on my ward whose job literally every day is to phone people and chase up people. So if something like this can remove that, it's going to save a lot of time and reduce a lot of delay.
And everyone could have a bespoke view, so the idea is across local government, housing, whoever is the team around the patient that's going to help get home in a timely way, they're getting what they need to see of it, and prompts when earlier in the process to avoid the delays. So instead of when it's discharged, let's have it the day before when it might be discharged tomorrow, so we can start doing that.
Thank you. So every contract I have, patient discharge is always the ones that we need to fix this and we need to do something about it. It's still obviously not being fixed. This looks really great. Is anybody else across the UK or wider already starting to look at this? Are people starting to find solutions to this? When you're researching?
Well, there's lots of projects going on, and I suppose the idea that I came from the start was get the right people in the room who can make a difference, which is what we did. I think there's a whole heap of benefit to joining up and collaborating wider on this and driving it further forward.
But I mean, the other problem is that the data was in such a mess.
Yeah.
A really big thing that Chris did this weekend was get that data set into a usable format, which is now on GitHub. So if nothing else comes of this, there's a usable data set, and our data set that people can take, look at, find things out about their own region and start looking at the specific problems. I think you said you were surprised that a lot of the problems are within the acute NHS organisations, whereas they tend to sort of blame the system around it. Actually, it's sort of, take the plank out your own eye before you look at other people's.
And
it would be great if this went somewhere after.
Yeah, well, the data is the best way. That can be picked up by anyone, and the one thing that it taught us is there's also massive regional variations in the data. Well, it taught Chris, it didn't teach me. But yeah, so making an assumption based on where you are, drill into the data, and actually find out who's doing really well on a particular indicator and what are they doing. Go and talk to them.
You've got a very quick question? I've got a very quick question. I'll make it a very quick question. How much analysis did you guys do on what other factors are going to affect delayed transfer of care or discharge? I'm thinking specifically about pharmacy wait times and how this could help.
So we could be here all day.
Yeah.
I think we picked on one very small aspect of a very complex problem.
It was in the.
Mike wants to start clapping.
From my experience, the delayed transfer of care is normally about not like a matter of hours. You're talking about days and weeks. The pharmacy thing is less relevant in that. Right, up next, the ballad of Jan and Alexa.
Digital therapy for John Young. Get ready to come up.
Okay, so the ballad of Jan and Alexa.
All right, just before that, it is Alexa. Anyone starts shouting Alexa whilst we're doing this, we're going to kill you, all right?
Okay, so what's this about? It was about my personal experience as now a socially isolated elderly person, actually finding it quite nice to be able to converse with Alexa in terms of perhaps giving my blood pressure readings to monitor my cardiac condition. But I'm also interested in my day job in hooking that up to what is an open data platform based on this OpenEHR technology, which they're using in NHS Scotland. So the idea is there is a central data store to which all apps, however you get the data in, should write this data so it's in one place and can be used for whatever purpose. So we've hooked up Alexa to a smart open standard data store. Okay, so this is where we play for the Wi-Fi gods. We're going to get a dashboard up, which should, if it all goes well, let you see that data coming in and being charted. Okay. Live-ish demo. Okay, Alexa, ask Boya to store my blood pressure 120/80.
Working 120/80.
Alexa, ask Boya to store my peak flow rate 420.
Working 420.
Alexa, send the record to my doctor.
Your doctor has now been sent your records.
It'll go ping eventually, but it probably went into my spam bucket before. So, all right, that is it.
There
All
was
right.
some problem.
Go ahead. Go ahead. That's as good as yeah. Briefly, we had a fallback, which was for John to wear the Alexa on his head. Anyway, John, go.
Do you want me to do that bit?
No.
All right, no, that's fine. Okay, so obviously that is not the way we communicate, and good Alexa skills have got far more, better use of language and dialogue. But just in case, this is a scenario about where this could potentially go. So, Ian, give me a blood pressure reading.
180 over 110.
Well, Ian, judging from the amount of whiskey that you've been ordering on your Amazon cart recently, I suggest you cut back, but I'll send this record to your GP regardless.
Thank you.
Stuff like that, that's the idea. So this is like the flowchart that we worked through to basically ask these questions, store, systolic, diastolic. We've got a couple of other things in there, peak flow and a variety of different things. Yeah, well, you've seen that bit. Done.
And it worked.
Sitting over there, including a couple that couldn't make it. Amazing job. Really, really pleased.
Any questions?
By the way, I thought it was really good. So well done on a lot of really good work over the last couple of days. A couple of questions around sort of privacy. So sometimes people worry about where that data might go as a patient or as a carer relative. Have you made any considerations around how the data storage might be secure?
That's a whole different kettle of fish, but there's lots of issues about privacy and actually data quality. But the conceptual idea of this is something we call a co-produced health record, where it is going to be in a properly, professionally managed environment, however that is done, and that's someone else's problem. But it is professional quality data. Yeah, and it tries to get around some of those governance issues about whether it's patient data or health data. It's a merge.
Is your question's not more about the use of Amazon, no?
Well, yeah, it's around how that then gets triaged, whether or not it goes off to the state.
Yeah, sure. There are a million and one issues that have to. But the data store would be in NHS official, or at least government. It would fit British privacy requirements. Put it that way.
Any other questions?
Really pleased to see you guys using open air. Could it be run on fire as well?
It could be, and in fact, it's quite possible we could put a fire interface between that. There's no reason to, but the data store would not work as well on fire, I suggest. The interface might be, but fire's not purposely as a data store, but that gets contentious.
So my second question is, I quite like the secondary Alexa, who sounded quite a lot more kind of deep and manly, I think.
Alex, probably due to Mike Cold as well.
I can see some future-proofing being needed where people buy their whiskey through other sites so that they can hide their drinking amount.
Exactly, or not.
Alexa,
I'm not so keen on that idea, frankly.
To improve children's language.
And then after that we've got, I don't know how to pronounce this, FAS. Does that work? THAAS?
Yep.
Yep, cool, okay.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to go.
So people are generally not aware that 10% of all children present with a language difficulty, so they struggle to express their wants, needs and ideas. It's a more common neurodevelopmental condition than autism and ADHD combined, so it's a big problem. This is the current therapy. This is one of the most popular therapies, and it's basically, if you're exploring the sound and meaning of a word, you do it using pen and paper with a child. So if you're looking at a word like hackathon, you might clap the syllables and say hackathon, and then write down 3. Or when is it? So look at the date and write down the date. This process has been pretty much the same since the 1970s, so it's not really changed much. What's interesting is children with language difficulties show as much or greater motivation to use digital technology as their peers. So they're really interested in using technology, and so for me it shows there's a possible solution in there, which is kind of why I came here today.
Yeah, so basically what we've done is we took a look at the actual old school way of doing it on paper and then translated that into an easy to use platform, and in this sort of scenario the clinician would be using an iPad with a child and go through the same processes but where it'd be stored in an easier to see and use process. So if we just quickly go through this, my name is Billy, and this allows it to personalise the experience for the child as well. And then if we choose the word rocket, as an example, and then we can see how that's sounded
Rocket.
out.
Rocket.
And then you might be able to explain a bit more about syllables, for instance.
So this time round, the child has an option of how they want to explore the syllables of the word. So they could record themselves, so the therapist would say the word rocket, or so they could click on the speech, text-to-speech, and hear it, and then say it themselves, rocket, and then that audio is captured. So rather than them just seeing that static number 2, they can click on that later in the day, or with their parents when they get home, or with the class teacher, and explore it together. Or they could create a video and watch the video back, or they could take a photo. It could be where they have, I don't know, 2 blocks to show number 2 instead. So it just gives the child more options and more facets for learning. So it's multisensory learning. It follows the child's preferred learning style, whatever that may be, and it can be personalised. So a different child may have a different preference for learning. So you can follow that route instead.
And then at the end of this, you would export what looks like a spider diagram, like the original way of doing it.
Yeah, and you can do it digitally. So it's a school-based intervention, and most schools have cloud systems already in place. The idea is use the technology that's already functioning, that's got the safeguarding, that's got parents' approval, and you just upload it using that system.
Any questions?
It's really interesting. You said that this is the sort of same thing that's been around since the 70s. Given that we're sort of in an accelerated period of learning and trying out new things, how quickly do you think this work might be superseded when a new methodology comes in?
Methodology in terms of digital, or in terms of
teaching children to improve their language skills in a totally different way?
So this has got the most robust of all the evidence-based approaches. It's got a randomised control trial, that's lots of quantitative study as well. So it's been used since the 1970s as a therapy tool. It's based on mind mapping, which has existed kind of even before then. So it's well established, it's familiar, and also it's quite mainstream. So something like mind mapping, most students use it for exams, and adults use it in team meetings. So actually it's doing the opposite. It's using something that's really mainstream and making it accessible for children with language difficulties. And the beauty of technology is it can be modified. If another approach became available, chances are it wouldn't be massively different, but it could be incorporated as part of this. So, yeah, in theory, that's the beauty of digital, that it can be flexible and change as you go through.
Quick one. How much data would you expect to have in this? How many words would you expect to need to provide?
Well, at the moment, you have an A4 size paper, and that's all. And literally, if you want to save more, you write on the back, or you photocopy and you add to it. So what we're starting with is very, very limited. So in theory, anything would be an improvement on that. But this is just a very early stage trial. Ideally, as much as the child wants, it would grow with them. So yes, yeah, and it follows their lead. There hopefully shouldn't be a ceiling. If there's cloud, then you can upload and store it somewhere and compress it.
And then just while we're waiting to get the next team set up, I'll take any question from the audience.
Hello. I'll turn on the microphone, I can read it out of the way. Presumably you'd be able to plug in different dialects.
Yeah.
So you were teaching BBC English there, but Welsh is different, Scottish is different.
Yeah.
And different languages as well, so it doesn't have to be in English.
So it's linked with which speech API?
I think we just use the browser API, the browser speech API.
Doing what?
Give people time to get the question and then don't let them answer it. And next up, Trans Healthcare as a service.
Projector's not showing on my beautiful background. So we've got a trans healthcare problem. It takes 2 years to get to get from a GP to a general clinic and actually start treatment. Even then, your first meeting is going to be a waste of time for most people who go. You get asked a lot of questions that you weren't prepared for, and instead of going straight up to treatment, you have to go and reevaluate a lot of things. So we want to give 2 things. One, over that 2 years, give the patient some agency so they feel like they're making progress. The sooner trans people start healthcare, the higher their chances of survival and the less negative effects you get from waiting. And we want to reduce wasted time. When you get to a gender clinic, make the most of that, because there's not a lot of time to go around. So our process, we used a little bit of technology to deliver this, and we talked to a lot of people. I think everyone on the team knew at least someone involved who was trans, so we used them for personal accounts. We talked to a lot of doctors. We turned up and we said we could use a little bit of help from some doctors, and we just got swarmed. So everyone came in and gave us ideas what they wanted to see and what we could actually deliver that GPs needed, that clinicians needed, but as well what trans people wanted. Carry on. This is what, there's a couple of screens for what you'd see as a patient. You start off with your tasks over on the side there, and then we'll move across to, you get a little card that introduces you to the situation, and then some information or some questions to work through, a little worksheet so that you get something out of the way, so that when you hit your gender clinic, you get as much time as you need. Next one, we've got a little video of it running, I think. Pray it works. Okay, there you go. So just a quick run through of it from start to finish. You go in, you'll hit one of your week's tasks, there's a little overview, and then you get your activity. In this case, we're putting in a little bit of information. This will feed into a data package that you can give to your gender clinic, to your GP, or anyone involved in your care. So they'll have any key information that you want to give across and share, and they can overview certain things. One thing we're looking at with a lot of people have autism spectrum, or are on the autism spectrum, when they're also trans. So we're looking at integrating with that. We're putting questions and hypotheticals to them, and we're taking that subjective information, paring it down into quantitative information for your clinician. Next. For doctors, you get a summarised response like you see there. You get questions prepped so they know what they're going to deal with, and we have some user journey. So you can see you can see over 2 years how they go for their health. If their mental health increases, like gets better or deteriorates. Should finish off. So our idea for the future, we want to migrate to Ajax so everything's easier. We've got user accounts to implement, and we need to standardise the output for doctors so everyone sees the same thing and they're reading from the same page. We want to expand the 6-week plan to cover the whole 104 weeks as well. I think that's it. We've got Twitter accounts as well.
Just before we start with questions, next up is painkiller rehabilitation plan, production plan, sorry.
Hello. Thanks for that. Just so I can understand that the piece of work that you're presenting there is to create some activity in the 2 years it takes to get an appointment.
Yes, so a series of activities and basically preparation for your gender clinic.
So the question number one then for me is, and I'm sure this is something you thought of, why does it take 2 years for the appointment? Do you understand why that is?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Largely it's due to it's supply and demand. When we've talked to doctors, they've said largely there are not enough gender clinicians to handle demand at the present time. And also there is a certain desire for people to have lived in their gender for a certain amount of time before they start medical treatments.
Okay.
It also allows us to run the exercises of, educating the person and so on and so forth. So as soon as they reach gender clinic stage, that they no longer, the gender clinician doesn't have to ask, oh, are you aware of this? Do you know about this? They'll know by the time they've reached that stage.
So they'll breach new topics like gender identity and non-binary identities as well.
I just want to say thanks, she's not here, to Dr. Sophie Quinney, who, when the team were saying yesterday evening that they needed a bit of domain expertise, she is a GP who's kind of does all the training sessions for GPs in Wales about trans issues. And so I sent a little message on Facebook, and she came in this morning for about an hour to talk to the team. So that's the kind of, it's great whenever people support projects like that.
We do just have the dev team up here, but definitely a big thanks to every single person who came out and helped us from the kind of clinical side, because we couldn't do any of this without your guys' input.
The next one.
Okay, you developed the first 6 weeks. Is this 6 weeks based on an existing actually build 104 weeks?
Oh yeah, we will have to expand that material ourselves. We had a series of areas to cover, and we used a template for 6 weeks because it was simple for us to push out across 2 days. But it needs a lot of work to fill that content gap.
Great, thank you very much. So next up, painkiller reduction plan generator. And which team is after that, Matt?
After that, we have what websites for health assessment tool.
What, and then after that?
Image search engine.
Okay.
And then routing after that.
Great.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so this was Anisha's pitch about the thought of people who are on quite serious painkillers for quite a long time, which has a number of issues with it. And then we were thinking about this hypothetical patient called Bill, who had some back pain, a few operations on his back, he's really struggling, has been on codeine for a long time, and is now at the maximum dose. And then the pain wasn't under control, so we added in some oxycodone, which is another opioid. There's a QR code. We're doing it over here? Yeah. It's to add a position where all of these things are impairing his ability to actually live his life. He can't drive, he can't think straight. And he's moving towards an approach that's a bit more psychological, a bit more supportive. And we need to figure out how to bring these painkillers down, because we don't just want to stop them all at once. So we'll open up this. So he's on codeine 2 of those 4 times a day, and we'll have another one after that. What did we say? Did we say tramadol or oxycodone? Let's do that. 10, let's make it 15. And let's say it has that QS as well. And then, so we've got 2, and we don't want to try and reduce 2 at the same time because it's just going to get too chaotic. So we'll pick 1. Let's do the codeine because it's probably easier. And then we'll do it a nice gentle 10 weeks. And then it'll tell us. So this calculates kind of more for our benefit. The equivalent in morphine of the whole thing, which is in the red zone because it's more than 120. But then it tells our hypothetical patient what his dose will be over the next 10 weeks. Slowly bringing the dosage down. Just like a nice handy number of tablets for. Make it nice and easy. If we'd done it over a much shorter period, as will often be appropriate, it would give a day-by-day dose. In fact, I might as well show you now. If we just start fresh, let's reduce some codeine. Over 2 weeks. And it'll tell us how much on each day. And then we can bring it down in a nice controlled way. Yeah, we wrote down some thoughts about why long-term opioids are bad. Lots of people are on opioids. And this is a massive fact, because this is exactly the kind of thing that's more drawn out on a piece of paper that then gets lost and is kind of, the specifics are kind of made up, which isn't ideal. That's sort of how we storyboarded how it might end up looking, the dots to say whether it's in a range where it's well above any kind of recommended limit. And that's us. And that's it for the
Very nice to see use of the NHS Digital Style Guide. Well done.
Important topic. Any way for the patient to interact with the app, for instance, how they're feeling as they reduce their dosage, so they can feed back to the clinician?
In the current prototype as it stands, no. But the sort of next thing on our to-do list would be to add in the short opioid withdrawal scale, which is 10 points, little questionnaire that gives you a score of how the withdrawal is and just puts a number on it, which wouldn't really be automatically fed back, but would be good for someone to note down so that next time they meet up with their GP, they can say, yeah, I've been feeling like this, I've been feeling withdrawal things, and this was my score on the sounds.
Alright, I'm asking lots of pharmacy questions today. Obviously the major issue, or one of the major issues with somebody who's on long-term large quantities of opioid painkillers is that repeat prescription is an absolute killer for allowing people to store up and overuse and abuse. If you're on a reduction plan like this, have you considered how it might feed into the repeat prescription at the pharmacy as well as at the GPs, so that they can say actually you should be coming for fewer prescriptions because you're using fewer pills?
What we were thinking is that that this would be used in the consultation with either the doctor, the nurse, or the pharmacist in the way that we've designed it at the moment, and so that would be part of the conversation with the patient, and at the time that this was agreed, then the appropriate changes would be made on the repeat prescription, including the frequency of the prescriptions, and to adjust the quantity to reflect the total amount that they would need over that time as well.
As a GP, I would say that when you are on opioid reduction, any reduction, your repeat prescriptions stop, and you get prescriptions that are for the week or for the 2 weeks or whatever. So you don't keep some of your repeat prescription while you're reducing them.
You don't worry about sort of giving people a bit extra in case it's not working and then you have to go back up.
Thank you. So next up we have what? The websites for health assessment tool.
Yes. Hi. Next, so let's start from. Some rationale. So according to ONS, more than 0.5% of the population in UK is self-diagnosing themselves using internet. Other numbers say about like 30%. In America, it can be even 80%. Next, please. But obviously, not all websites can be trusted. So how to make some sense in that online jungle? Next. So we propose two-step procedure. First is a website that enables medical experts to assess credibility of given online source, and then to the end user we provide web browser plugin that scores those websites from 1 to 10. Next, please. So, few words about technology. The website is implemented in Shiny R, then we store the data in MongoDB. We do some data analysis in R that is sent to the plugin that is implemented in JavaScript. Next. And here is how it is implemented in details. This is like a main landing on our website. The medical expert or other user can select some option and type the address of the website, please. Next. And then some features of given source can be checked automatically, and this is what we do here on the left panel, but obviously there is like a couple of like properties that we need to have some human input to. And then we propose suggested score, but obviously the medical expert can use like a judgment to assess the credibility of the source. Next. And here is like a little demo on how our plugin works. If you focus on this like a little icon at the top right of the screen, if you go to the website that is credible, it gives you quite high score. But if you switch to questionable source, it will give you first of all some alert and also the flash red, right? So yes, there is a bunch of next please. So there is a lot of records that are still not in our database. We are working on that. We would appreciate your help. So this is the address to our website. You can go there and put your own input. We are hoping to extend this work to other web browsers. Next. And yeah, that's it. I just published this plugin on Chrome Web Store, so it should appear there soon. This is my Twitter handle, so I will notify you once it's there, and thank you very much.
So can I just check, do you want then as many healthcare professionals then to log in and rate, and is there going to be some way of moderating, because presumably we've all got different biases around what we consider to be credible. Is that the aim that you would crowdsource that analysis?
Yeah, exactly. So we are like pulling all that data together, and then we are computing some statistics. So far it's like a median of like all the responses. But yeah, I mean, in the future we have like a couple of like different like factors that we treat with like a different like weight, and hopefully in the future we will also provide more detailed statistics to the website.
Can I add to that? The 6 questions that are up there are from a tool called Discern that has an academic grounding to it, an evidence base, so it's a validated tool that's been used before, and actually there's a study more recently about how to use that through machine learning to try and automatically review sites too. So there's a bit of a rationale for why those questions were up there.
Great. Any other questions? Anybody else want to ask a question? No? Great, well thank you very much. Good to see you again. In between, I meant to say earlier that the creche, just in case you're curious and you're organising an event and would like to have an on-site creche hand as well, it's being provided by Brecon Mobile Creche, who seem to have done a very good job. So if you would like to, thinking about organising an event and want to do the same thing, I can give you their contact details. So next up we have image search engine.
It's not providing me my notes, so I'm just going to have to work from that. Before I start, just have to give a warning. My operating system is unstable, so if you do have some form of epilepsy, I would advise maybe looking for a few minutes. Sorry about that, just have to give a warning beforehand. Right, so image search engine. My original proposal was to work it as much out of the NHS as possible. People would upload images of rashes, could be stuff that they don't want to discuss with their GP, and it would filter back a percentage of what it could be. It's 70% this, it could be 50% that. You need to go to your doctor now. There is something seriously wrong. But because my coding skills aren't exactly what you'd call good, I had to work around that. So what I decided to do is try and work around a bit of both. I decided that I'd work around what I know. I like the idea of open source intelligence, so I decided to work around that 180,000 people are reported missing every year. That's one person every 90 seconds. If we can try and reduce that, it would mean the world to everyone, because everyone has the potential of being affected eventually. So, the solution, code and too much code. I don't particularly want to go into it now, but it involves a very complicated algorithm, including, what's that colour? So, I got a proof of concept here, have to be quick because I'm dangerously close to going over my 3 minutes. So, you choose a photo at the moment, it has to be done through the command line, it checks it against an 800 image data set and throws back a result at you. So, if we look at the video here, we can see that those 2 images are exactly different, and if you press enter, it will throw back different images that it believes is similar. That is probably about my limit as it goes. However, with someone who has a bit more intelligence than I, it would be possible to say, well, possibly as an analyst, because I am a bit stupid. How we can use it. Medical investigations, as I said previously, could be used in any manner of ways. Uploading photos could be used at a doctor's surgery to collate a massive API. However, I rather Trace Labs. Trace Labs is a system that is around the world that allows volunteers like yourselves to find missing people. That data then gets collected and sent to the police. About 30 people so far have been found because of these events. Open source intelligence is a wonderful system, so if you haven't already, please turn your Facebook settings to private. Thank you very much.
You did do a little bit more than that, because you did do on a data set, didn't you, of some rashes?
It just brought back everything,
Yeah.
because it works off a colour.
Yeah, so if you had a hand, you had skin cancer, I think, didn't you, or something? Yeah.
Well, not me
so it needed a much
particularly,
bigger data set to be able to work on, and be able to data set, and we just couldn't kind of find one. Any questions?
Don't leave me out now, come on.
So I think you highlighted a real problem with image searching, which obviously multi-billion-dollar corporations are trying to fix, which is that the different grading of colour is hugely difficult, especially in medical situations where everybody has a different baseline. Have you had any opportunity to investigate how you would baseline an individual so that you could get some useful information out of it?
I have. The way my system currently works is it separates the query into 5 quadrants. You have the 4 corners, and it separates then an ellipsis in the centre. It then works off HSV colour balance, saturation, vibrance to discern different features. It then transfers every single pixel into a number into an Excel document, and then it transfers that against your query.
Any other questions? The next team up is
Rupy or Rupy?
Yeah, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then after that we have post-NHS discharge activity recommender.
And just another reminder as well, when we're finishing up, in the last, certainly whenever we get finished up here, we will be wanting to, we have to do some reorganisation in the main room, moving some chairs and tables around. If you have time and you would like to help us with that, please do stay, but don't feel obliged.
Okay, hi.
Yeah.
So yeah, our app is called Rupy. Rupy is the name of the boy. He suffers from epilepsy. And if he has a seizure during the night, his mother or the parent or whoever's caring for him needs to know. There are solutions that exist already, but they involve bespoke hardware, generally unreliable. So we want to make a cost-effective, easy-to-use system. And that's what we're going to show you now. So, we made, this weekend, an Apple Watch app. The reason we chose Apple Watch is because we thought the most important thing is that it gives you a real-time data. So when you launch the app, and the zzz button is to say, right, I'm about to go to sleep, track my heart rate during this time, and when that app is running, it will be constantly running in the background, so we will get a constant feed of the heart rate data going through. And each time we get a data point, we're collecting the data, and what we're looking for is spikes or massive dips in heart rate. So for the demo, obviously, Mark wasn't going to have a seizure, so we created a little button which would replicate that data source. And when this happens, a notification instantly comes onto the companion app. So guessing the scenario is like you might be in another room, or you might be at Cub Camp, or you might be a carer or a teacher. You get this notification, you look at it, and what we show you is real-time heart rate monitoring data. So you can assess for yourself whether you need to react to that. I mean, obviously we can improve that. I mean, there's the great thing about the Apple Watch is that it gives you lots of other metrics that we didn't use, but we're starting it simply for now. This is a fully working product that we hope to start practicing with, alongside with another tool as soon as possible, and continue developing.
Good. Any questions?
Hello.
Hi.
Current Apple Watch, or will it work with any of them?
It should work with any of the Apple Watches, yes. Maybe not Series 1. I mean, it's also possible to make it for the Android watch as well. We did find, though, it does need to actually run on the watch itself, because you need to ensure that that data is always coming through, because it's important.
And you need to be careful, you need to tie it on tight too, which is the other thing that I've noticed with the watch. Okay,
Right.
super.
Have you considered how this might be used? Because obviously Apple Watch has got the AF kind of thing for atrial fibrillation warnings. Have you considered what other sort of clinical applications this might have?
So, I mean, we wanted to specifically look at this particular type of epileptic seizure, but we did want to make it modular, so someone can use the same thing and apply it to something else, because maybe some different sensory data or some different patterns will do other things. So we tend to make it open source and allow people to add those modules in. So yeah.
I don't know much about epilepsy, but could this, the data, could this be used to look at preempting fits? I mean, is it something that you can start to sort of develop patterns, etc.?
Yeah, so one of the requirements that, so Rupi's mum specified is that it'd be useful to record this information, because often what happens is the GP wants to know like how often they're having the fits and like so they can see patterns in them so they can change the medication. So that is definitely a must-have feature.
Hi, did you look at incorporating other data like from the accelerometer or something to try and get a more
Yeah, we did, and that's why we like the Apple Watch, because you start doing the type ahead and it's like, whoa, there's loads of information here. But we had to focus it because we wanted a working product in 2 days, and Mark's worked really hard, and this is as good as we can get in that time.
Something if you thought about trying to contact like a sleep lab or something to try and validate it going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the way we thought about trialling it is to use it side by side with the current technology they're using to do this solution.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
We have post-NHS discharge activity recommender, and then next up case library after that, and neuro v rehab after that.
Okay, hi, I'm Hannah. I work in the NHS as a healthcare professional and service manager. When we reach the point in any NHS service, such as physiotherapy, and it's no longer required, we recommend and we make recommendations to patients about support and activities for social inclusion, physical health or well-being that are available in their local community. For example, Tai Chi, arts and crafts groups, and walking groups. Current practice is reliant upon individual knowledge, memory, and paper-based pamphlets. My pitch yesterday was to have a digital service that allows us to collate information on services and generate tailor-made recommendations for patients. From this, I present our product, Finder. I'll give you a demonstration. So we utilise the site at the point of discharge. I type in there my discharge. For example, Adam. He's 21, he's been seen by an occupational therapist following a spinal cord injury. He's a new wheelchair user, and he's keen to return to paid employment and sport. Prior to his injury, he was a carer for his mum. I continue. From the information that I've put in about Adam, it suggested that he might be interested in wheelchair basketball and gives him some information about it, and a carer's coffee morning. Through discussion with Adam, he says, I'm keen for the wheelchair basketball. I save it. Like in an online shopping basket, it confirms for me what it's recommended, and I send it to Adam. It confirms that those recommendations have been sent and brings me back to my home page. I move on to my next patient, and I see Betty. Betty sadly had a fall. She's broken her hip. She's been seen by the physiotherapist. She's able to walk short distances, but she wants to progress. She sadly cares for her husband, who has moderate Alzheimer's. From the triggers there, or with Betty's presentation, it suggests Tai Chi and a carer's coffee morning. You note there's a coffee morning that's come up twice, and the trigger there recognising that they were both carers. Betty's interested in both. She tells me about something else that she's interested in, and it sparks an idea that isn't in the database. I add it, I save it, and I send to Betty. I have a new member in the team, and they don't know the area at all. So I produce the full list. You notice on there we have further down bottom a men's choir. We've not seen that before. We haven't, because there's not been a trigger for it. Our further development ideas for this would be to increase a filter search so you could identify whether you want any free activities for someone short of money, how far they're willing to spend, and then eventually patient access to the site. With 1 second to go, I end.
opportunities. I think hopefully something that we can come to later when we've got better digital applications is probably the opportunity for allied health professionals as well as GPs to consider social prescribing, being able to cover the cost of the first few to get someone a chance. I noticed obviously that something like wheelchair basketball is brilliant if you live in central Cardiff. Quite a lot of this country and others as well is slightly more remote and might not have enough people to be able to do that. So are you aware that the ODI did some work with Sport England to create a massive database of local sports activities? You might want to consider integrating with that so it gets sort of more than just the things that you have with local knowledge.
That's really wonderful. I'm not aware of it, but I thank you for that.
Yeah, this is really great. One of the things that I would be interested in is how this links up to public transport and transport full stop, because this is essential for most people. So,
thank you. That was something we discussed in the development ideas yesterday of having eventually with the further development, conscious that we started yesterday. So we wanted to produce something that was realistic that we could show you for now. There's a huge amount of further ideas, including the question, can you drive? Do you rely on public transport? Including how far, as I say, how far you're willing to travel.
Can I ask, sorry, I know you've only got 3 or 4 things in the database and there was some matching. Was it really an algorithm that was doing the matching, or were you just showing us how it might work?
So the algorithm, right, isn't quite there, but that's really dependent on people actually using this, right? So if you fill out the form, that's actually storing the data. So, you know, there's one flow for administering the system and also for searching and finding recommendations.
Thank you.
If I just say the finder, just to identify, so it's find onward recommendations. We've used time recommendations for the fluidity in the room, that we're not all familiar with the jargon that we might use if we apply it locally.
Brilliant, thank you. So, case library, then we have NHS Community Finder.
So, case-based learning is vital in medicine. It's important to have a real patient journey that helps a teacher teach better and a learner learn faster. So, could I just ask the audience to put up your hand if you use case bases in your teaching? Okay. So, clearly it's a commonly used technique. So, the current situation, doctors seem to store patient cases on a huge variety of different platforms, whether that be really easily lost books, USBs, sometimes on a home desktop, sometimes in the computer network, they rotate on and it's lost. So what we have devised is Case Library that makes managing your cases easy to create, easy to access, and easy to share with your students as well, which currently is just not possible. So this video just shows you how simple it is to make a case. So you can pick any title as you wish, and then you can include important clinical details, so and key learning points. You can add photographs, as many as you want, including videos, and you can either copy them from like a Word document or from a direct file. Then you choose a category that you want to save your case to, and then click publish, and that's your case made. And then if we go onto the live website, so this can be used for a huge range of different specialties, so ophthalmology, cardiology, respiratory, but for this example we'll go through into ophthalmology. And then if we want to look at a case perhaps within retina, so these are the cases that we've already inputted into the programme, so we choose to look at acute retinal necrosis. And here's our case, really easy to access on any platform, And then you scroll down, and then here's your images, and you can talk your student through this case. So, in summary, Case Library helps you teach better. I'm really happy if anybody wants to come and speak to us or get involved with this, or there's my email address on the bottom if you wanted to get in touch. Thank you.
Any questions? I was wondering if you had a question.
It's a massive problem, and I think one of the themes going through all these is the collation and curation of multiple data sources, and I think that something like this would be beneficial. There's a colleague in Bristol who has a huge database that we can't access because he's got no platform to put it on and share. One of the challenges I find is exporting images and data from an NHS system into something that's outside of the NHS because of data protection. Any ideas about how we could combat that?
So we're using data which is not personally identifiable, so obviously no photographs of people's faces and that kind of thing. So primarily, for instance, ophthalmology imaging, there is an automatic setting on all the main programs that we use to anonymise data as we take it off and put it on a USB. So that would be a primary way of doing it. Initially, you can just make this as your own personal library, which was the initial idea. And then you can choose to share it with a select group of students who need to have a password protected access to this website. But you can also make things kind of open if you want as well. And I suppose ideally in the longer term this could create a point whereby students can just go on and kind of teach themselves from cases that are already on the website. But
also, what you were saying about the data transfer, because it's based on WordPress, there are loads and loads of data conversion tools. So if you've got it in the format, it's really easy to make a script that would then import it. Yeah. So from that side of things, if you've got a library, you can.
Yeah. So like I learned this weekend that TIFF files aren't that easy to use sometimes, but seemingly all my photographs that were on various random spreadsheets, pieces in journals, and like I tried to collate everything. And then we managed to get them all uploaded without a huge amount of problem. It just took whatever kind of format we gave it.
I think we'll just move on.
After Neuro Rehab, we have Community Finder and then Rehabify.
So we came here today and we came up with this simple enough idea in UNV Rehab. Our target was going to create a virtual reality scenario that was going to assist with people with neurological rehabilitation. And this was based on my own experience as having had a stroke myself. Sorry? Yeah. Just getting it set up there so that we can demonstrate. My original concept then that I sort of arrived with, and I was very much willing to be convinced that this wasn't the best way of doing it, was that we simply give the person with mobility problems in their arms the task of bursting balloons with a stick. And the clinician would then have the ability to decide how hard it was going to be, and we'd actually give the clinician the stretch goal was to try and create an app on a mobile device that they could use to control simulation. So how far did we get? Quite a long way. We basically set up the basic framework and we've managed to port it across onto a device. So we put the basic framework, we've got balloons that burst, we've got you can poke it with, we can calibrate how fast things move within it and where the balloons come from. And we've managed to deploy the software onto the Oculus Quest, which as you can see Tom is modelling here. Doesn't require any kind of base station or anything. It can be, that device can easily be taken into a clinical situation or somebody's home by a clinician if necessary. Here's a brief video of what it looks like when you've got it going on.
One of the judges want to come and have a quick look inside, you're more than welcome to. I know we've already got seconds. You'd have to stand at this stage, so I've just built it here.
I do believe that Tom will hopefully be hanging around for a while after we finish here, so if anyone wants to have a look at how it works, then...
You just hold this, so you've got a stick there, and you step forward. Or you can pop the balloon.
Now, one of the things I've been very encouraged with noticing is when I watch somebody doing this, is that it's encouraging them to carry out exactly the kind of arm motion that I was hoping it was. So, and move forward then. Quite sure what. So, what we want to do now is calibrate the software so it really suits somebody who's in a sat-down position, who's got restricted mobility in their arm, so that it will help them to exercise. We gamify it, so you're getting a score as you're doing it, and so obviously the better you're scoring, the better you do. You can make it more difficult as you see. The clinician can make it more difficult as the score increases, and that will hopefully encourage people to carry out their tasks. We've had a number of people come and try it. As I say, it seems to be encouraging the movements that we're looking for. And we've had a few additional ideas given to us. We spoke to a clinician with rehab experience late yesterday, and so we've got a few additional ideas for additional scenarios that we might put into the simulation, and that's kind of where direction we're hoping to head in. Okay.
No bias from me here, but Chris is my husband.
That's it. We're not winning.
And 2 years ago, he was 1 month after having had a stroke, and he came to NHS Hack Day, and he worked on a VR project, and he was walking, just about managing to walk with a stick up onto the stage.
Yes.
And he's made an absolutely fantastic recovery. Very proud of him.
One of the things that's a big precursor to falls is the functional reach test, which is how far you can kind of lean forward without sort of falling out of the chair. Do you see something like this as being able to provide clinicians with that sort of information around how far someone can do without their centre of gravity?
Very much. This is something that has come up in the course this weekend, actually. As I had thoughts of gamifying the process to help the patients recover, but in addition, of course, you can record their recovery, because within the software we'll be able to record how far they're moving, how far they're capable of reaching. That would be something very much that we can then report back out, especially if we develop an interface to a separate Android or iOS application, because then we'll be able to report back to the clinician exactly how they've done.
It's about taking the tracking data and then putting it into a model that makes sense. Like all the data's there. It's just that's not what we worked on this time. But yeah.
Sorry, that technology is out there already. I know certainly we educators are reviewing that already, so tracking that with the sensors for some of them are already there that you can put together.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any other question? Oh.
Can you put unpopular politicians' faces on the blue?
We give a random database of popular politician faces.
It's just a comment, really. There is another technology that's similar to this, but what I really loved about this was that this seems to be translating to real-life functional use. So the reaching task, for example, that's one of the problems with other VR applications, and this is quite improved.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And next up?
NHS Community Finder.
And
then we have Recoverify, and then we have Can I Eat This?
Cool. Hi. Okay. My name's Kevin. This is the meta pitch. So this was the pitch that was hoping to support all the other pitches that are going on. Essentially, the idea is to try and find communities within the NHS to support the pitches that happened today. So people build things, they're great ideas, but then they go home and they sort of disappear into the ether sometimes. The idea was, the delivery was to bring back some communities so that they could then take those pitches on. So what we did is we tried to do Anne-Marie's, we tried to go through Anne-Marie's Twitter API of followers and to find what communities existed in there. Just trying to get the speed up. Oh, I jumped. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, so we tried to use Anne-Marie's Twitter. Unfortunately, Anne-Marie follows 9,000 people, so we had to ditch it, and we went to Matt Stibbs instead. So this is his data. We pulled it in on this is a graph. This is all the people in his network. There's a thing called modularity, so that finds communities within there. Then you get this massive blobby thing, and then you run some really cool algorithms on it, and what it does is it goes and sorts them all out and tries to find where all of the different groups are and where they're positioned. So that was our kind of test case. We then gave that back there. You start to see it come in. There's Matt. He's the giant orange sun thing coming in from there. It sort of comes around. He's sort of formed into a brain. He's like a purple. You can see there's a green haze, a blue haze, a purple haze, and you start to see Matt move into the middle. I then handed this to Matt because technology can only take it too far, and he stuck it on his iPad, and then he started to draw circles around all of the different communities. And I think what's really interesting is you've got the digital government team, you've got the open source, open health. We found Ian McNichol, where are you? He found you in there, you went, yeah, that's the right place for him. And so there was lots and lots of finding other people in this room and where they sit on that map. So taking that idea forward, you can also do something called an ego search, so you can find specific people and see how they are related to your network. So what networks do they sit inside? If you do that, the one person we selected was over on this side, which I don't know if that was the NHS digital side, but you could kind of see where they sat amongst that community and how they fitted amongst your network. Same, but with someone on the other side, which was more the kind of C-level, GDS, and that kind of team. Then tried to deliver on our promise of coming back and finding out what communities existed around some of the other pitches that were going on today. So this is Kenneth Rockwood, which is CrocDoc, which is a geriatrician, is that the right term? So he's kind of in that community, so we searched through there, and also...
How will you be able to isolate the groupings on Twitter? So how will you be able to kind of target those groups?
So the software does finds the communities. So we used a system called Gephi, and we put all this in the blog. And the idea is the Twitter API was too slow for us to do it for all of the pitches here today. In fact, I ran Matt Stibbs' Twitter feed overnight, and it went from 10 o'clock till 7 o'clock in the morning, trying to extract all of the data out, and that's what we got with this. So in slower time, I could come back if people were interested, particularly things like the epilepsy thing, Frauti, the Hannah with the social prescribing. I think you could find choir groups, you could find
It's the question, how do you get from that graph into, say, like a list or something in Twitter? How do you actually...
Geffen has a spreadsheet view.
You can start to explore that graph, and you can find a big fish, as they call them sometimes, in a social group, and you can find who you're not currently connected to, who might be interested in your project, or you might find someone who's on the intersection between two groups. So somebody who's into social prescribing but is also part of a choir. So, and then you find where they're in.
As an aside, we do actually have a Twitter feed. If you look for Find NHS, so we are currently following key people for multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, all kinds of, the NHS, all kinds of things like that.
Great, thank you. I just came to lots of NHS Hack days. Kind of favoured one of my tweets yesterday. I was like, where are you? Come on down. And he did. So he just turned up today and joined in with a group.
Well, we started yesterday as a two-person team.
Yeah.
We finished as a four-person team. So that was good.
So that's another thing for you maybe to know as the judges, that we started with some teams have got bigger or smaller, or actually worked across with lots of different projects. It's been really, really collaborative. So next we have
Rehabify.
Rehabify, then Can I Eat This?
And increasing participation in strength exercises after that.
Hello. The problem, put very simply, is at the moment the technology that we use in rehab, particularly goniometer, something to use measure joint angles is only really useful for clinicians for assessment purposes. And we wanted to explore whether we could use that same technology for patients to start taking more charge of their own rehab. So that's the problem we were exploring. So one of the things we worked on this weekend was getting patients to use that technology to have clear instructions for their exercises, being able to see the progress between appointments, and also prescribing targets and limits so that they're within safe ranges, and that they be able to use this in any position, and it's used on any modern smartphone, which most of patients will have in their pocket. So we've got a demonstration for you.
1 second, I've just updated the permissions. Do you want to start doing that?
Hopefully you'll see this on the screen in a minute.
The reason why it can't be demoed off the phone is because it relies on the inbuilt magnetometer and gyroscope.
So the idea is that I'm with the patient, I'm going to set an exercise, and I'll specify a joint and I'll specify some instructions, and then it'll take me to an initial measurement. So the patient will be able to set a 0, we'll be able to move the patient through an angle, he'll say, ouch, I can't move anymore. And at that point, we'll then configure a target. So the patient can relax now. I'm going to configure a target. So I'm going to put a lower range as this is the target we want to achieve. The higher ranges don't go beyond this. This is dangerous for you. What we want to then do is then generate a link, which we can then send to the patient, so the patient can then use this on their own smartphone. So that's the sort of link the patient will get via email or text message. And then if you just play this, so this is now the patient doing their rehab in their own environment. So the patient will have some instructions, they'll press start, and then they can start moving their arm into the desired range that we set for them. So that's the patient's rehab doing it themselves, and then the patient comes back to us and we can see their progress charted and be able to take it from there. Certainly a lot better than what we're doing at the moment, where we essentially just write something on a piece of paper, hand it to the patient, and hope for the best. So that's what we want to do. And to be honest, we started on this yesterday lunchtime. It's now in a position where I could use this on a patient tomorrow. So we've done fantastic work, and congratulations to the team here.
So what we want to do next is make the URLs better, which gets sent, and have an automatic email generator. Extend the number of joints that can be used on, and able to monitor progress as a clinician with the patient as well, so how they're getting on, and also create a database. Any questions?
There's someone that used to have to use going on this quite a lot. I'm quite glad to see the back of it in front of me. But I guess one of the things that we used to find as a way of incentivising patients to do is to link it into what that would mean functionally, particularly more with like lower limb stuff. So I guess it was whether or not you considered whether or not what that meant in terms of functional ability. So once you're able to bend or extend to a certain amount, it allows you to do X, Y, and Z, like put a coat on or
absolutely, absolutely, and that's always the end goal of rehab, to make it functional. And that's something we can explore. I think initially, in the initial injury stage, this is very useful just to get that range of motion, and then you can progress it beyond that.
Again, thinking about sort of remote areas, there's kind of quite exciting opportunity for telemedicine, where you sort of have initial meetings, but after that, presumably you've got the opportunity to set new targets remotely, so that as soon as you know they've got it on their app, you can talk to them on voice over internet or video, and then get them to do the exercise and set a new target for them.
That would be wonderful, absolutely.
It's very easy to generate new exercises as well, so the actual URL that was generated has the exercise encoded in there, so it's completely free from everything, no strings attached. You can generate it and send by email again.
Longer term, of course, you could gamify it to help support patient compliance.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was one of the things you wanted to do. I mean, in the last 24 hours, we've just managed to create a ball, and but with a bit more time, there's definitely something to do.
Would you consider linking up with the guys doing VR so you could?
Yeah, I mean, I did actually work with them this weekend. So,
they helped them out yesterday as well.
Take the data and somehow make the two numbers talk to each other.
Yeah. Just like talk to each other.
The reason we chose a smartphone, just to find out, is because we thought, because every single patient pretty much has a smartphone these days, it could be put in their hands tomorrow, and I think that's really what makes it powerful.
Great. Thank you very much.
Can I eat this?
Can I eat this? Increasing participation in strength exercises, eye dog trainer, PP roll, and last but not least,
Quick read.
quick read.
So we're mainly data journalism students at Cardiff, so we're quite new to the developing side, but we've made a simple web application called Can I Eat This, which allows a user with various dietary restrictions to search for food products that they might be able to eat via their barcodes. The problem we were trying to solve was that it can be quite difficult on products to see whether they meet your requirements, and also if you have several requirements, if you're vegan and gluten-free, it can be quite time-consuming to check all of them. So this links up with the Open Food Facts API to check various requirements. The user inputs their selection of restrictions, and they type in the barcode of the product they want to check, and it returns a traffic light style response explaining whether they can eat it or not. So it's just a simple website. This is some demonstrations. So they put in the restrictions and type in a barcode. We're in the process of getting a barcode scanner to work, so that in a mobile version it will be easier to use. And if you type in the wrong barcode, it comes up with a little error message. And occasionally it comes up with a product where on the API, some of the ingredients, it's not sure whether they're vegan or vegetarian or matches, so it comes up with this amber light with a list of ingredients so they can check for themselves. And then this is our...
You need to share that video.
Okay, it's just a mobile version, so it's a similar thing but a different layout. So our future things that we can improve, we're in the process of adding a barcode scanner and adding more restrictions, and we thought that in the future with input from nutritional experts or medical professionals, we could add restrictions that might be specific to people with various medical conditions to check things like nutrition levels of carbohydrates or sugar levels for people with diabetes and so forth, and then also the ability to add products to the database. We thought also it might be useful for things like events like this when you've got to provide food for various different groups of people with different restrictions. You could use it to check the things you could include. That's it.
Okay, good idea. How reliable are the barcodes in terms of significant allergies? So I'm thinking about the recent cases in the press. Could you be 100% certain that you didn't have traces of nuts when...
So the API, which has got hundreds of thousands of products on there,
Yes, we could. I think so.
yeah, the app is running through...
lactose.
Yeah, it's running through all the ingredients. Each has got tags, whether it's vegan or vegetarian, and at the moment we're mainly looking at those, but when we look at more restrictions and allergies, it's got various information about the different traces, so it's sort of looping through all the different things to check.
Okay, any other questions? No?
Just a quick one. There are quite a lot of nutritional analysis apps out there of sort of various shapes and sizes. A lot of them are paid for. did you make use of any of the technology that they're using, and can you see any kind of competition issues?
We looked at various apps that were available, some of them that are using the same API, but quite often they provide sort of all the nutritional information on a product, or sort of all of it in one go, or like you say, they're paid for apps or only available on certain devices. So we were trying to make something that's a bit more accessible in terms of where you can use it. So it's just a website, and also just a very simple response that just shows you whether you can use it or not.
Great. Thank you very much. Always nice.
Increasing strength.
Strength. Jess.
And then we have iDoc Trainer after that.
Cool. So, hi everyone, I'm Jess and this is Alistair. Thanks to the previous team for making us look very unpopular. We've been working on how can we increase participation in strength exercises. This is important because there are health benefits to the individual as well as cost savings to NHS and wider economic benefits if people are doing more strength exercises. The NHS recommends that people do strength exercises twice a week. We did a very scientific and in no way biased survey, which thank you if you took part. So in the last week, around 19% of people said they did no exercise at all. However, when we look at how many times people did strength exercises, it was 39%. As well as that, only 44% of people did strength exercises over 2 times a week, as opposed to 72% of people who do exercise in general. So, people don't really know how many times they're meant to be doing strength exercises. I think over half of people didn't know, and only 12% of people did know that it was twice a week. 2/3 of people aren't satisfied with how much strength exercise they're getting, and the barriers for why people don't think they're getting that exercise is time, motivation, and not knowing what to do mostly. So this supported our hypothesis that this is a problem that we should be solving. So we want to build on the success of things like Couch to 5K, Duolingo, and Headspace, and make a really easy to use app which combats some of these barriers, which Alistair is going to demo.
Cool. So one of the things that we thought was a major problem is that there's an awful lot of shouting at each other on the internet, and we just wanted to give people like very straightforward instructions that they can just click through this app and follow. So it's, you know, why are we doing this? And then some information about yourself and your circumstances. You know, do you have access to a gym? Are you going to train at home? How much time have you got available? And then it's like select a program in the back end that's going to meet those circumstances. So, and then yeah, have you got any special requirements? Have we got anything to consider? Can you stand, for example? You know, do you have a problem walking? All of these things. So let's say that, you know, we've come to this and we get to our first workout and we've got 10 minutes and we want to do 2 exercises in those 10 minutes. We don't need any equipment to do those. Right, so let's go. Right, so we give a bit of an introduction to the exercise that you're going to do. We want you to do 2 sets. You don't need any equipment for this. Have you done this before? Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I might like some more tips. No. So I want some guidance. So what you can then do, and if it clicks through, is go through your sets on that exercise and just say, how is that going? Click through, and just carry on going through them. And just give some feedback. So.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
It's perfect. So, I don't know if I missed it, but who's getting this information and who's kind of looking at it and who's making a comment on it? Who wants to know?
In what sense? So
if you're filling this out and you're sending the information, who are you sending it to?
So the idea is that you would download this app as a person that wants to get into strength training but has absolutely no idea what to do, how to get started,
and it's supposed to be kind of mirroring that Couch to 5K experience where it's going from doing absolutely nothing at all to doing something.
So it's voluntary?
It's voluntary. It's for the people in that part of the pie chart that said they want to do some strength training, but they don't do any, and they're not happy with how much they do, but they don't know where to get started.
Yeah, so we know that people don't do strength training. It's really, really important. You need to, especially once you get over the age of 50, you lose muscle bulk. And before, so don't be scared. So that's why, and it's just like an under-known about area.
Okay.
So that was the background as they were trying to, and you did a lot of work on
mapping
this out.
thinking about the problem, and then today we put the prototype together.
Yeah, it's like where do people fall off on the journey towards doing regular strength training? Is it at the knowing about it? Is it knowing how much they should do it? How to get started? And we decided that really you just want something that kind of cuts through all of that, gets people on that track, and then just gives them something fairly simple to just click through and follow.
And so you're missing one of your team members, who was Polly Thompson, who was the person that pitched this, and Polly is a world champion weightlifter from Cardiff. Also in her spare time, she also works in IT in the housing sector. So it was her. Are you watching the live stream, Polly? Give us a shout if you are. Polly. So yeah, it's good to see what you managed to get done. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Trainer, and then we have Peaky Flow, and then Quick Read. Now, just before we go on, has anybody not in the next three, but did want to do a presentation and we've forgotten about you? Excellent.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So, normally, so the problem is I'm an eye doctor, and I also train new junior doctors. There are not that many eye emergency conditions in the world, but there's only 3. That happens very rarely, but when it happens, it really causes blindness. And because it happens so rarely, it's very hard to train people who don't do it every day. So, at the moment, the training process is a PDF document, I'll show you in a minute. It's tedious. People don't read it. It causes delay when you actually have to deal with the situation. People rotate through different trusts, different hospitals, different settings. So it's actually important to train a doctor to know exactly what tool you want, exactly where to get them, how to do the process. So this is what we have at the moment. Right? Every induction, every hospital, this is what you got. You may read it, you may not read it, who knows. There's no guarantee way to prove that you've read it. On the day when the emergency happens, you try and find this, and you try and follow 28 pages of instructions. It causes delay. An injection should happen in 45 minutes, happens in 4 to 6 hours. So what we're aiming to do is try and decrease training costs and actually make it more efficient, improve people actually learning about this process, to then help compliance and increase patient safety, because when the actual situation rises, you can do it very quickly because you know exactly what to do. Through gamification, because that's how we learn as adults, being told what to do, being told to read a PDF, not going to happen. So we're trying to make it more fun. So thanks to these guys, should we demo?
Share the video, I'll share it around.
Got your laptop.
First IT issue of the day. We apologize.
Request access. Top left.
Are you showing it from your laptop?
He's going to put the laptop on, yeah. So we need to go back up here. Yeah, HDMI.
You can do that. So yeah, so I'm the new trainer, so I'll give you a little instruction how to do the game. We're going to start. So you can choose a case. In this case, we'll choose case notes. You read about the history, hopefully. But so I'll give you history, and you say, well, I want to have a look at the photo because it looks bad. What do I think it is? If I choose the wrong diagnosis, the patient now needs a guide dog, so bad. So go back, train again. All right, so you go to the case notes. Let's look at the photo. Got the correct diagnosis. Now you need to choose the correct procedure. So in this case, we want to take a sample, inject. Now, this is what we could achieve this weekend in terms of what we wanted to train the doctor to do, but ideally, we wanted photos of items that you just drag into the box and lay it out onto a table as you would in real life. So if you choose your instruments that you need and lay it out correctly, you can proceed. We time you as well. You can see on the clock that is actually working. And if you've got everything right, your patient survives, get good sights.
Can I ask what more do you need to be able to do to actually get it? Or what was your limiting sort of thing about your development of it?
So I thought it was going to be easy just to put a table mimicking real life, but it's harder than thought. So the tech guys, there was a lot of decision tree, decision making, yes, no, fail, which I did not realize. So that was their great job this weekend in 24 hours. Very impressive. And
So the big limitation is we just typed in the success paths, but with every step there's the failure paths, and in actual fact you can come back from a failure, but we tried to look into that, but the more we looked into that, the bigger the problem became, so we had to restrict ourselves.
I think we've also designed a back end that's hidden behind here, JSON data files, so we've spent a little bit of time on that. For me as a non-NHS person, trying to understand from Palin what it really means and then translating that into some usable data, but it's extensible now because that data sits behind the front end.
Good. Any questions from you?
This is another nicely reusable one. I assume if you design the back end well, then presumably you put a number of other sort of acute or emergency activities which are rarely coming across, but which you need to train people on.
the idea is to simulate, and then we were thinking maybe there. So, for example, if early on there will be death, sudden death, if you answer a really serious question wrong, definitely you fail the game. On the back, with, for example, if you collect instruments, if you collect excessive instrument, then it might not be a fail, but it would delay you, so it again affects your time score, kind of thing. We also wanted to do things like, if I'm the college tutor trainer, I have these trainees, they all do the game. If they, if somebody keeps failing at a very vital part, then I need to take them aside and retrain them properly. So as a record for induction training as well. That's the thinking big.
Peaky flow, and then last, but certainly not least, quick read.
Yay!
Oh, no fancy slides, I'm afraid. We were concentrating on the output, weren't we? So the problem we set out to tackle was of getting data to diagnose occupational asthma. Large number of new onset breathing problems in working age people in this country relate to exposures in the workplace, something irritating their lungs at work. The way we currently diagnose that, is I give the patient a stack of bits of paper and a breathing machine and say, blow into that, write the number down on a piece of paper every 2 hours for 4 weeks. And then the patient hands me the stack of paper and I type it into my computer. There had to be a better way. We were almost there.
Yeah, like it was interesting because this is a problem that I've never met him before. It's a problem that I was literally working on about last month because we have a nurse. She literally spends an entire day typing in peak flow information. And I spent an afternoon trying to shave like 1 minute off that, 2 minutes off that per patient, because you know that adds up over time. And actually, Ian's solution much better.
So we have sort of working an app on the patient's phone. Not on there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so I hope you guys are good at it.
Essentially, the patient takes their peak flow reading, types it in. Remember, these guys are often doing it in the workplace. They're trying to hide it from their employer because the employers are worried about health and safety and trying to not get caught out on something like this. So they can quickly take their pre-flow reading, pop it into the app, record whether it's a work day or a day away from work, and then we've got a feature there that at the end of the 4-week period, the patient presses the button and it will send by email to me a JSON block. I think we fixed on with all their readings on, which I'm hoping one is going to come pinging through now, given we'll see anyway. I don't know how good my phone reception is in here, but if not,
should be winging its way to you right now.
Any questions?
Should we do the correct? Wait, hold up. And then the idea is, Ian works with a completely different system to what I work with, but it doesn't matter because it's literally just a JSON blob that says times, peak flow readings, work day, not work day. So any Tom, Dick and Harry or Tomina Deirdre can do it. And so essentially the output for the end user, with I think Oasis is what you guys use, would be something like that, where you just be able to drag and drop it into your system, and what you've just had is a nurse who's spending a day, or Ian who's spending a day. Well, now it takes you like less than 5 minutes to do your entire patient cohort. And although it's not quite complete, I mean, it pretty much, there's not a lot more to do really. So maybe it is, but
one of the things that you've mentioned is how many patient-reported measures there needs to be taken in order to make a diagnosis. Given this might be more contemporaneous, do you think that there's an application there to be able to reduce the amount of time patients will need to record their symptoms before you can give a definitive
No,
diagnosis?
it's the variability of what you actually do in the workplace, because you're probably not spraying the aspergen the whole of the day. So the minimum you can get away with, sort of, is 4 recordings per day for about 3-ish weeks. The gold standard, you can see the sensitivity go up to that.
Anybody?
So how much more does it need in order for you to take away music?
Bit of spit and polish, I think.
yeah, I don't like the blue.
This will work with, I think, as it is with the more sophisticated chap, needs a bit more explanation and so forth, tidying up around the edges for the less computer savvy, I think.
I have wondered, possible amendment that you can disagree, is would it even like prompt you?
Yes,
on the
that
day
would.
that you haven't had a reading in so long.
Actually,
it was on our initial feature list.
I'd completely forgotten that. It was on the feature list.
And that
give me
when
an hour.
you reach a certain critical amount of readings, it might then prompt you to say, are you ready to send this to your doctor?
Yeah, it needs the longer time period to be
Because
but yeah.
I think you should always assume that the person on the phone is an idiot.
Well, people have busy lives, don't they? You know, every time I'm asking people to record their blood pressure over a week and things, and there are some people who do it really, really well and have very organised lives, but most of us don't. Yeah, we've got other things. So, yeah, any other questions? No? Great, thank you very much. Quick read.
Cool. So, hi everyone. My name's Gareth. This is Nick, Dan. I started this weekend just basically wanted to help my mum. I was that guy. She's a health visitor, and the problem that she has is that she can carry around a limited amount of things, but the questions and things that she could be asked are like unlimited. So if a family was to say, I have a particular niche concern, let's say about a newborn baby, but there's nothing to worry about, and a leaflet would help put that worry at ease, my mum would have to go back to the office, print it out, send it through internal mail, then wait for internal mail to frank it, and then let go out, and she would have to go, give it a couple of weeks, sit on that worry, but it'll be okay, don't worry. And then, so I thought, why don't we just drop in, make a QR code, she can make a little poster, and instead of carrying around maybe a handful, she can carry around like 50 in one go. So, on page, we've opened it up, so my mum would log in, and here's one my mum made earlier. So she's gone in and done those so far. So just to show you guys how we would add a new one then. So you would add a new link. My mum really wants to get a QR code for the main NHS website. So she'll type it in. She'll type in a name, just so she remembers what it is, because otherwise it's a generic, weird looking square. A description, so that potentially, she can give herself prompts about what to talk about, or if she's going to hand it over, it's more useful. And then we're toying with the idea of a publish date. So this is kind of a manual verification on the final bit to say how old the data is and whatnot, because
don't be handing out the wrong leaflets.
Exactly.
Or leaflets are out of date.
So then, my mum has put everything she wants in, and now she wants to just print it out. She wants to print it out, put it in a little folder and carry that around with her. So now she'll click that, go through the print, and as you can see there, I don't know if I'm blocking it, it will spit back to you a PDF, which is a nice formatted, perfectly clear thing that she can print out. This can be one page, several pages. The idea is that it's trying to fix that problem of we don't have to wait 3 weeks. She can carry that around, and she can carry a whole range of material. So then, basically, I solved the problem for my mum. So there you go. In terms of some quick other things, we actually have a waiting list for testers. This is real now, which is kind of cool, very exciting. And the cool thing about this is that you can use it for videos as well. So my mum could carry a bag of videos around with her if she wants. So yeah, code's on GitHub, and cheers everyone for helping out.
Can you do that whenever she's out there on the house, she'd say, if you've got a smartphone, okay, can you scan the VR code, and then you have the link, and you would she could save it to their homepage or something?
Yeah, basically talk them through.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
It's a really nice idea, and great that she wants to use it. Just want to understand, if you're saving something which they then need a smartphone to access, why is she printing out the QR codes instead of maybe saving a set of links that she can send to them and then avoiding the printing altogether?
So the frontline tech isn't necessarily there to pass things on and to email data backwards and forwards. It gets a bit tricky. She's kind of old school. Her herself, she's low tech. So this kind of fits that perfect thing where she can carry quite a low tech option and then rely on the tech of others for that high tech.
And so instead of actually handing these to patients, or it's something that she carries with her and just says, scan that one. So it's not volume printing, mass printing, it's very much a catalogue that she carries around with her that she can, that's the idea. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's a really cool idea, and I could see even in an outpatient setting or forever, wandering around looking for leaflets. I think it's particularly good if your main audience is going to be young with phones. I suppose if in ophthalmology, for instance, we have so many old people that wouldn't know how to use the Q codes, but the idea was so good.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's obviously the risk that some people just fear technology too much and they don't know how to use it. Ultimately, this is just adding on top of what's already there. If my mum couldn't get them to scan a QR code, she can just post it out and stick to what's going on.
Thank you.
slightly amazed at what everybody else has been up to and managed to achieve. As Matt had tweeted there, you know, sometimes when you're working in teams and you're doing things, people are saying, we're not going to show it, can't show it to you until it's done. But what you've been working on is for 12 hours and everybody showed what they've done. So it's definitely possible to be able to make progress and show it and keep demoing and, you know, check back, have the kind of feedback and go and keep making things better. So we are now going to have our judges kind of go off and do some voting. I'm going to run out to my car, get in the t-shirts. We're going to put up the names of the projects over here and you're going to be able to vote for them. We're going to give you, how many votes are we going to give them each?
3, I think we're going to be doing them.
3.
Yeah.
So you can vote for your 3 projects by just putting a little dot into the grid that we're going to put up. And we'll see how well you think your matching of the projects matches up to the judges. So we'll be judging the judges. No pressure.
This is a trust-based system.
Yeah.
We've never had anybody do anything naughty before today.
Yeah.
So don't be the first.
Nobody has ever went and voted for their own project or anything like that. So yeah, we don't want that to happen here today. Does anybody have any questions now?
When are we coming back? When are we getting back?
When are we getting back? So we're going to.
4:30.
It is now, yeah, 4:30. So we're going to aim to be back. It's certainly by 10 to 5, but ideally maybe by about 4:45. So in about 15 minutes. So you've got time to go off to toilet, vote, whatever. We've got 15 minutes, and then we'll see you back again.
And are we doing the live stream yet?
the other kind of votes, yeah? We've got some T-shirts for the top 3 from the judges' votes, and we'll see from the community, but probably the top 3 from there as well. If we do not have enough T-shirts, we will manage to get you more T-shirts, but we'll go from there.
Stop looking.
Don't look.
That's all right, I can read the handwriting. Okay, Anne-Marie has been bullying us. We could have sat there for another half an hour discussing the various pros and cons of each of these, but having said that, it was a really tough decision. We looked at our 3 favourite for each one of the judges, and there was certainly some overlap, but we each liked different projects in our top 3. So this was a bit tricky. So we eventually decided that one of our big things was, does it work? Can we take this and turn it into a working project? To the extent that all 3 of our top 3, I would really request that the people involved go and talk to Fliss about getting, Fliss over here in the blue and white dress, Fliss over here, yep. Talk to Fliss about getting funding for further development of your projects, please, because we think that these 3 projects have the potential to save time and money.
I'm just going to clarify. What happens if, just so that if you're saying that if a project is completely based in England and people that are working on it are based in England, would we still be able to support that?
I will put you in touch with people in England who will be able to.
Thank you very much.
Right, so, okay, in reverse order then, but please bear in mind that we thought all of these were great, and in fact we were really impressed by the quality of the projects overall, that you actually all managed to get something up and running and looking interesting. But third, we thought peaky flow. The idea that you have something that you can take away and you can use, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. We'll get we'll get rather than bringing everybody at night, thank you. We'll maybe go through everybody and then we'll get this up, get some pictures and get the T-shirts at the end. Thank you.
Okay, and second place, Rehabify. Again. Take away and make it work. And then our favourite, which we were incredibly impressed at the fact that not only you came in with the idea, you built this thing, you got it to work, but in the process of getting it to work, you realised that you had so many other things you could do with it. We'd like to give the first prize to Rupi. Rupi team seem to have disappeared.
Are the Rupi team here?
No.
Yes.
Yes? Super, we love it.
So I'm going to get these. So have we worked out from the community vote? So the top, I'm going to do it in reverse. The top again, the top is Rehabify. Second is IDOT. It's IDOT. Yeah, second is IDOT, and third was the what website verifier. So. Well done to everybody. You've all been fantastic. Thank you again to the judges. Thank you again to the sponsors. And thank you to my colleagues as well who have been helping me do this and run this. To Matt and to Mike and to Fred, who's had to go on, and to Jacob. We're all volunteers, right? We do this in our own time. We're volunteers. We don't have any, there's no income that sort of comes in from this. We do it on the basis of sponsorship. If you would like to support one of us, another future event, get in touch with us. If our next event is going to be in Manchester on the 5th and 6th of June, in the 6th and 7th. We have a mental block about these dates. It's either the 7th and 8th or the 5th and 6th. At the 6th and 7th of June, in the Federation in Manchester. There will be another one after that coming up in London in the summer.
In the autumn.
In the autumn. We'll hopefully be back here again in Cardiff in January. We might, if there's another place, maybe at Extown in the southwest, again early next spring in 2021. So if there's somewhere that you would like to do, and you've been here and you understand what it's about, and you'd like us to come and support you to be able to put it on, do let us know. Key things about getting venues and sponsors and networks and all that kind of stuff. But we're here to try and help you be able to do this. We've got a formula now that we know that works, and we'd like to have more people be able to have the opportunity of participating. So thank you very much, and safe journeys home, and look forward to seeing you all again.
Well done, Anne-Marie.
So we've got here a meal t-shirt.